Isang magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Medyo maulan tayo ngayon. Marahil kayo ay nagkakape habang naghihintay sa ating ikalima sa anim na webinars. Good morning to everyone wherever you may be tuning in from the Philippines or elsewhere in the world. Comment naman kayo dyan kung saan kayo nanonood. Let us know where you are joining us from. Please write your schools also so we can give you a shout out later. I am Marianne Cruz, the former Deputy Executive Director of the CEAP, and I will be your moderator for today. Today's session is titled Mission Beyond the Campus, Serving the Poor and Transforming Society. This is the fifth session. Last October 24, we had the session on Leadership in Mission, Ensuring Catholic Identity. We were led in our reflection by the University of the Immaculate Conception Davao President, Sister Marisa Viri RVM, on how, as Catholic leaders, we are called to be shepherds and servants, forming hearts, shaping culture, and keeping Christ at the very center of our mission. And of course, doing so while leading with courage and boldness. Today, we take leadership beyond the schools and into the greater community. So let us begin our webinar with an opening prayer. In our prayer, in particular, let us remember those who are suffering or have been afflicted by the various calamities that our nation has been afflicted with. Let us remember that we are in the holy presence of God, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving and gracious God, we gather today with grateful hearts, thankful for the gift of learning and for every opportunity to serve your people with compassion and hope. We bring before you our beloved nation, especially our brothers and sisters who are suffering because of the many natural calamities affecting the Philippines. Hold them close in your mercy, those who have lost their homes, their livelihood, and especially their loved ones. Strengthen the hands that help them, and inspire each of us to act in solidarity and love. Bless our speaker today with clarity of mind, wisdom of heart, and passion for mission, so that every word spoken may inspire us to be channels of your justice and peace. Bless also all of us who are participating. Open our hearts to new understanding, guide our conversations, and renew our commitment to serve the least, the last, and the lost in our communities. May your spirit lead us throughout this encounter so that everything we do in our academic institutions may reflect your compassion and contribute to the building of a more humane and caring society. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. And now let us sing the Philippine National Anthem.
Bayang mag-ibig, perlas ng sinanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, buyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bughaw, may dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng luwalhatig pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mang-aapi ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Good morning once again to those joining us in our webinar, Mission Beyond the Campus, Serving the Poor and Transforming Society. Welcoming us this morning is our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Don Timothy Buhayan. Don?
To our esteemed speaker for today's episode, Father Daniel Franklin E. Pilario, President of the Adamson University. To all school leaders and teachers, both religious and lay, joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Dakompion, good morning and welcome to this fifth episode titled Mission Beyond the Campus. Serving the Poor and Transforming Society of the six-part webinar series, Empowering School Leaders for Moral Leadership and Catholic Formation. First, allow me to thank some people who toiled to make this episode possible. To former UP College of Education Dean and now DepEd Assistant Secretary and a very good friend of Forex, Jerome T. Bienviaje, and Professor Emmanuel Manalang, also of the UP College of Education and a team leader of the Docampion Corps of Trainers, who provided inspiration for this webinar series through their article titled Moral Leadership Development of Lay Principals in Philippine Catholic Schools, published in the International Studies in Educational Administration, Volume 52, Number 1, by the Commonwealth Council for Educational Administration and Management. This webinar series also drew reference from the Philippine Catholic School Standards, a product of a collaboration between the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines and the Phoenix Educational Foundation, Inc. I would also like to acknowledge and thank the former SEAP Executive Director, Jose Alan Arellano, and our host, former Deputy Director Mary Ann Cruz, who were mainly responsible for crafting this series design. Thanks to my team at Rex, who toils in the background. And of course, much thanks to Father Danny Pilario, whose presentation of knowledge and insight constitute the core of this webinar or episode. Just last week, I was sharing with my team at Rex some key points in Pope Leo XIV's Apostolic Letter on Education. Aside from the emphasized contemporary challenges to education, hyper-digitalization, social insecurities, and the crisis in relationships, I also noted the Apostolic Letter saying, where access to education remains a privilege, the Church must open doors and find ways, because to lose the poor is to lose the school itself. I hope that through this session, we will all learn not only to open our doors to the poor, but also to go out and be in solidarity with the less fortunate. I can only imagine a lot of good if all our learners, even after they have long graduated, imbibe this desire to reach out to the poor and be willing agent for addressing social inequalities. As educators and people entrusted with shaping the minds and souls of our children, we have a duty, a moral obligation to make sure that they develop into upright, moral, ethical, and responsible adults who can be trusted with our country and the world's future. Today, we take a step towards that direction. This six-part webinar series aims to equip lay school leaders with the knowledge, with the skills and attitude that are needed in leading with moral integrity, upholding Catholic values, and fostering a culture of faith, dialogue, and service within the school communities. We dedicate this webinar series not only to the Catholic school community, but to all educators that they may be effective agents of change for the better para sa bata, para sa mamayan, para sa bayan. With that, thank you all for being here and welcome to this fifth episode of the Empowering School Leaders for Moral Leadership and Catholic Formation series. Good morning, and may the good Lord continue blessing us and the good work that we do.
To lose the poor is to lose the school itself. That's why we keep reaching out to the poor. Thank you, Mr. Buhain, for reminding us of what Pope Leo told us in his apostolic letter. And thank you for your very warm welcome to us this morning. We, of course, also like to thank you and Rex for this initiative that will help not only our school leaders, but ultimately will help our nation. At this point, we call on Rex Bookstore Strategic Education and Development Consultant, Mr. Jose Alan Arellano, to give us the perspective setting. Mr. Arellano?
Mabuhay at magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Thank you so much, Mary Ann. Belated happy birthday. I hope you had a great celebration with your loved ones. Bago po ang lahat, gusto ko rin makibahagi sa pagluluksa sa mga namatay, mga nawawala, mga nawasak ang mga arian sa bagyong Tinyo. At sana ang pagdating ng malakas na bagyong Uwan bukas at sa Lunes ay mapagandaan nating lahat. Now, I would like to thank Sir Don Buhain, our Chief Executive Officer, for his support, for welcoming us, and for passionately introducing the second to the last of a series of learning sessions on empowering school leaders for moral leadership and Catholic education. And once again, congratulations, Sir Don, for the success of the International Book Festival in Frankfurt a few weeks ago, where Rex played a significant role in highlighting the Philippine publishing community. We are almost done with the series. This is the 5th of the 6 webinars we've been conducting since October. I'd like to greet as well Father Danny. Nandito na siya sa Zoom room. He just came back from an engagement outside the country yesterday. So welcome back po. Thank you for joining us. Father Danny was our dean and professor. Mary Ann and I took our postgraduate program at St. Vincent School of Theology, and we had the very, very fond memories of our years at S.Th.D. At this point, let me set the perspective for this penultimate session of our series. For those of you who were not with us, during the first session with Father Miranda, with the theme Rooted in Christ, the identity and vocation of Catholic school leader. The second session with Father Glenn, with the reactor, Mr. Manalang, several weeks ago, on forming people, not just programs. Our session with Sister Eileen Bonifacio focused on leading in communion, listening to the Spirit. And our session with Sister Marie Saviri on leadership in mission, ensuring Catholic identity. Let me refresh you about this 6th session program. And we really are happy with the support and positive feedback this series is getting from you, our viewers. And there's a plan to do something more in relation to this, which we will announce during our last and final session on November 22. For this webinar series, Rex Education has been aiming to empower school leaders with the knowledge, skills, and qualities that would guide them in leading schools with moral integrity, upholding Catholic Christian values, and fostering a culture of faith, dialogue, and service within the school communities. As mentioned by Sir Don, our Rex team used the framework of former UP College of Education Dean and now Deputy Assistant Secretary, Dr. Jerome T. Benviaje, and Professor Manuel Manalang, also of the UP College of Education, the research on moral leadership development of lay principals in Philippine Catholic schools. In designing this program, we used also the 3 aspects of leadership the study presented as framework: discernment and reflection, faith in action, and development of future leaders. And of course, we're also using as reference the Philippine Catholic School Standards, as mentioned by Sir Don, which is a product of collaboration between the CAP and Phoenix Educational Foundation. Mastering the defining characteristics of a Catholic school which guide the PCSS standards, benchmarks, and rubrics will help you own your own internal quality assurance system and identity as Catholic schools. As this session with Father Pilario is our 5th in the series entitled Mission Beyond the Campus, Serving the Poor and Transforming Society, let me take this opportunity to invite you to our final episode on November 22. Also with Father Danny, the 6th session is on moral leadership in complex times, witnessing with courage and clarity. Our final episode will highlight the most important duty of a moral leader, which is to choose to see reality clearly and unflinchingly, especially when it is uncomfortable or inconvenient. With the problems of the Philippine society today, leaders of schools must refrain from being passive spectators and must be active witnesses, will acknowledge truth and inspire school communities to take action. Therefore, we invite you to tune in to Rex Education Facebook page for the last episode on November 2. And once again, if you want to receive certificates of attendance, you need to register as a participant and submit your online evaluation form. Muli, maraming salamat sa inyo. Back to you, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Mr. Arellano, for that overview of the 6-part leadership formation series for school administrators. I am sure they are excited to listen to today's speaker already. But before I introduce him, may I request all of you who are tuned in that if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to leave them in the comment section on Facebook. Our staff will collect your questions so that our speaker can address them during the question and answer portion later in this session. And as I mentioned earlier, you may also send your greetings to let us know where you are watching from. Thank you very much for your cooperation. And now, I have the honor to introduce our distinguished speaker for today's session, as he is my favorite teacher and favorite theologian. He is a Vincentian priest, theologian, educator, and author whose life and work are deeply rooted in solidarity with the poor and the marginalized. So that is why his theology is for the poor, of the poor, and by the poor. That is why he is the best resource person for today's webinar. He holds a bachelor's degree in philosophy from Adamson University and a bachelor in sacred theology from the University of Santo Tomas, and a doctorate in sacred theology from the Catholique Universiteit Leuven in Belgium. He has served as a professor, our dean, and academic leader at the St. Vincent School of Theology in Quezon City, and is currently the president of Adamson University. His scholarly work spans topics such as liberation theology, theology of the poor, enculturation, social justice, and human rights. His book, Back to the Rough Grounds of Praxis, Exploring Theological Method with Pierre Bourdieu, was awarded a major prize in the humanities. What sets him apart is his consistent commitment to bridging academic theology with lived realities. He has ministered in urban poor parishes, payatas, and has worked with grassroots communities and has insisted that theology must give voice to those in the margins. We are very fortunate to have him with us today. Please join me with a virtual round of applause in welcoming Father Daniel Franklin, Father Danny Pilario from the Congregation of Mission. Father Danny?
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much, Mary Ann, for the kind words of introduction. Estudyante ko raw siya, kaya medyo maganda yung introduction niya. Pinapasa ko kasi yan. Hindi ko nila alam, nagkakabiruan lang kami dito. Una sa lahat, I would like to thank Rex for inviting me, especially to the Rex community, but also to the others in the educational scene in the Philippine educational community. Maraming salamat po sa pag-imbita sa akin. Pagpasensyahan niyo na po yung boses ko at medyo nahabol tayo ng ubo. Pero sana maintindihan niyo naman. I would like to share right away my slides so that we can continue with our webinar. Please let me know, Mary Ann, if I am if the slides are okay, so that we can continue.
Yes po, okay naman po.
Okay. So the topic that is given to me this morning on the 5th of the series of webinars is Mission Beyond the Campus, Serving the Poor and Transforming Society. Para po alam natin kung saan tayo papupunta, yung mga mahihilig sa outline dyan. Ito ang nais kong tahakin sa umagang ito. Hopefully, I can have 1 hour or so that we can have some interaction after the talk. I would like to have some preliminaries going back to Philippine standards and questions on it, which is actually the base of our discussion. Second, I would like to go what are the facts on Philippine education on the ground. Thirdly, I would like to contextualize the mission of the school as part of the mission of the church. Kaya nga, we will ask what is the church and what is the mission of the church in our times. Hopefully, on the fourth part, malalaman natin what is the mission of Catholic education today. Hindi tayo aalis kung hindi natin mapag-usapan ng konti kung ano yung possible lines of action that emerges from this reflection. There will be more depending on your context, but maybe as part of my own location, I would also like to share what we are doing in this regard. So let's go to the first part, standards and questions. As was introduced, one of the frameworks of this webinar series is the Philippine Catholic Standards and Catholic school standards. There are 8 defining characteristics of Catholic schools. In that standard, if we can review it, I think part of the talks or the previous talks also referred to this. Centered in the person and message of Jesus, participates in the evangelizing mission of the church, animated by the spirit of communion, established an ecclesial institution, distinguished by a culture of excellence, committed into integral human formation, engaged in the service of the church and society with preferential option for the poor. And number 8, promoting dialogue on faith, life, and culture. In this webinar, I would like to focus on number 7. But as you know, all these defining characteristics are not different from each other. They are more or less connected. So it's also connected with number 2, like participation in the evangelizing mission of the church, and also animated or by the spirit of communion and ecclesial institution. Pero ang focus natin ay ang number 7 as based on the title that was suggested to me. So I think if we are going to ask a question at the outset, we can ask the question, how can school leaders form students and faculty towards the values of justice, solidarity with the poor, and social transformation? Ang title nga ay nagsasabing Mission Beyond the Campus, which means the campus should not be just hold in its own community, but should get out of itself. So ito yung first question that we can ask ourselves. If we go to the Philippine standards, PCSS standards, Philippine Catholic School standards, there are actually 15 standards. I would like to focus on in our discussion 3 of those standards. Hindi naman po natin ma-discuss lahat, pero siguro ang focus natin ay yung 3. Number 1, number 4, and number 6. Number 1 standard says an excellent Catholic school is animated and driven by a philosophy, vision, and mission, core values that embrace and preserve Catholic identity. Previous talks also talked about it, but we will see what really does Catholic identity mean in terms of mission. Mission of the school, mission of the church. Number 4 is an excellent Catholic school is faithful to the church's preferential option for the poor and demonstrates its fidelity through actions that favor the deprived of society, of the deprived sectors of society. I think standard number 4 directly refers to our topic today. In short, the question is, how does my school relate with the deprived sectors of society? And number 6, an excellent Catholic school is governed and administered in accordance with relevant government policies within the framework of gospel values and the teaching of the church. I think the emphasis is the gospel values and the teaching of the church. How does the church navigate between government policies and gospel values? Let me pose some questions that would direct us to these discussions. I would like to pose 3 questions regarding and related to those standards. Number 1, if my school's vision, mission, and core values embrace and preserve Catholic identity, what really is our Catholic identity? That's number 1 question. What does Catholic identity mean in the context of today's situations? Number 2, what does preferential option for the poor mean to our school curricula and programs? And number 3, if government policies and programs are not in accordance with gospel values and teachings, gospel values and teachings of the church, what do we do as a school? So these are like teasers so that we can try to reflect on them as the webinar continues. I would like to start with my favorite quote from Pope Francis on Catholic education. Pope Francis, 1 year after his election to the papacy, talks to a group of educators in Rome. And he said a very important phrase which we should remember. He said, education cannot be neutral. It is either positive or negative. Either it enriches or impoverishes. Either it enables a person to grow or it lessens, even corrupts him. Because the mission of schools is to develop a sense of truth, of what is good and beautiful. Therefore, medyo malalim pala ang mission ng educational institution. Our mission is to develop a sense of truth, in Latin bonum, verum, of what is good, in Latin bonum, and what is beautiful, in Latin pulchrum. These 3 categories, these Latin categories, verum, bonum, and pulchrum, actually defines the whole of our Catholic existence. Babalikan po natin yan later on. I would like to go to some facts and stories which is actually the context of Philippine education. Many of these are already can already be read in social media or in some researches by EDCOM2 today. Actually, EDCOM2 already has produced 3 reports. If you have been following them, you can download these reports. On the first part, they have published Miseducation, the failed system of Philippine education. In number 2, they tried to suggest some solutions like fixing education. And the final report is found in at last quarter of 2025. So if you go to the site, you can actually see the details of their own analysis of Philippine educational scene. Just to give you some sample, this is well known, the learning poverty. Ang ibig sabihin nito, marami sa ating mga estudyante ay kulelat, maybe last, or maybe second to the last in the whole of Asia in terms of math, reading, and science. Ang tawag po niyan ay learning poverty. Another very dramatic example, is what you call the 3-mile schools. The 3-mile schools are schools with less than 4 classrooms, usually makeshift and non-standard ones. No electricity, no funds for repairs, and new projects, constructions are only done in the last 4 years. And a travel distance of more than 1 hour away from the center, which is accessible only through difficult terrain. Ang tawag po doon sa mga eskwelahan na yon ay 3 miles 3-mile schools. Why is this important? Kasi sa panahon ng lola ko, sinasabi nila sila ay nagkaklase sa ilalim ng mangga. Panahon pa ng lola ko yon, namatay na yung lola ko. Hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin bang mga paaralan na may mga ganon? Yes, the answer is yes. All those are statistical data. I would like to give a face to those data from my personal experience. Sa karamihan po na nakakakilala sa akin, ako po ay nagtuturo from Monday to Friday for some time, for a long time in Quezon City. But on weekdays, I also work with my brother priests in Payatas. Payatas, Quezon City, as you know, is the garbage dump site. Sarado na po siya ngayon, pero marami pa rin garbage na nandoon at tinatambak na lang sa gilid. And that for me is the image of Philippine education today. What does poverty do to Philippine education? Lalong-lalo na po noong nag-start noong 2016 sa panahon ng war on drugs ni Duterte. Ang mga pictures po dito ay mga bata, ay mga widows and orphans of the war on drugs. Almost every week, during that time, at the height of the killings, we were burying 8 to 10 persons of fathers, young fathers, and young men killed just like that. If you look at these are the pictures are some of those wakes that I visited. If you access this site, until now, there is a documentary by Ditzi Carolino entitled Huwag Kang Papatay. This is one of the experiences that I have in Payatas. We were saying the funeral rites of Juan, and these children around his coffin are the children of Juan, 7 of them. The one who's taking care of them is the grandmother, Lola Remy, because the wife of Juan, when he was killed, was also imprisoned. Ito yung unang palit-ulo sa Payatas. I am sharing this because I would like to tell you that the war on drugs, the killing of innocent victims is true and real. It's not a propaganda. Kilala ko po ang marami sa kanilang mga pinatay. Bakit mahalaga ito? Ito yung unang mga AGK widows noong Tinipo namin sila noong December 30, 2016. At ito ang unang mga orphans on the drug war. At that time, there were only 18. At the moment, there are more than 50 or 60 children who are growing up. And this is where our topic comes from, is related to. What does the war on drug and its poverty contribute to Philippine education? Because all these children, when that happened, stopped schooling. We tried our best to help them, give them all the necessary allowances, food even, and all the school materials necessary so that they can continue studying. Some stopped really, but others continue. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Anong ibig sabihin ng ating social situation, political situation, economic situation sa Philippine education? That's why I would like to bring a face, to provide a face to the real issues of Philippine education today. This is the family of Juan and the wife already came back from prison. She actually stayed in prison for 1 year and 8 months without a case. And she is back to taking care of her children. What does this situation tell us? 3 things. Number 1, our society tells us that human life is expendable. Power is more important than people's lives. Ito ang unang natututunan natin sa lipunang ito. I asked one of the orphans, I asked him what he wants to be, and he said, "Father, gusto kong maging pulis dahil gusto kong patayin ang pulis na pumatay sa tatay ko." He was 7 years old. And already the society tells him to be a killer. Why? Because our society teaches us that violent power rules. We are supposed to teach truth, beauty, and goodness, but society is teaching us the contrary. The second thing that our situation tells us or teaches us is that our society tells us that human person is not the center. Money is. Kung diretsuhin po natin, kung may pera ka, makakapag-aral ka. Kapag wala kang pera, tapos ka. I have asked one of those orphans again and said, "Ikaw, anong gusto mong maging?" At sinabi niya, "Wala po." Sabi, wala naman talaga. You ask kids, they have these dreams to be a doctor, engineer, pilot, etc. Pero yung bata niyan, sabi niya, wala po. "Ha, bakit wala?" Sabi niya, "Wala nga po kami makain bukas. Yun pang maging." If you have heard that education does level off social status, it's a leveling off factor. It's not true. Education does not level up social status. It's a sign of social divide. If you have no money, you cannot study, period. Number 3, our society causes us problems of mental and psychological health. I have chanced upon this social weather station infographic 2025 of October. You can still access it in their website. It says there, some people experience stress 34% frequently, 32% sometimes. That's already 66%. And rarely 30%. Anong dahilan? Financial situation, health, job, and family. See, it's marami mga tao ngayon, ano ba klase itong mga bata ngayon, ang ihina. Hindi po nila kasalanan yun. Kasalanan ng lipunan natin na hindi nila kinakaya ang buhay natin. Preliminary conclusion to this part. Number one, our schools are located in, influenced by, and are replicas of the society where we find ourselves. Number two, it lies on the decision of its leaders to either perpetuate the system or fight against it. If we know the situation of the society we find ourselves, and in front of us are the products of this society, ang ating mga estudyante, it lies on the decision of its leaders to either perpetuate the system or fight against it. And here comes my initial quote from Pope Francis. In this context, education cannot be neutral. It's either positive or negative. You either kill or make people live. That's how crucial education is in our times. And the question is, how does Catholic education respond to the dominant crisis of our times? Where do we locate Catholic schools in the movement of the church and society today? Which brings me to my third point. And my third point is, what is the mission of the church of our times? One of the characteristics of the PCSS expresses a Latin term which says sentire cum ecclesia. Yes, the Latin term means actually to feel with the church. I just came back from a trip to a meeting in El Salvador. And as you know, El Salvador is the place where Saint Oscar Romero was assassinated when he was Archbishop. I looked at in his memorabilia, nandoon pa nga yung sutana, alam niyo na, binaril siya. Sutana na may dugo, etc. But one of his memorabilia is his mitre. And his mitre says this, sentire cum ecclesia. To feel with the whole church. I think that is also the mission of Catholic schools. Sentire cum ecclesia. Because the mission of Catholic schools is directly related to the mission of the church. In the Catholic school at the threshold of the third millennium, issued in 1997, says Catholic schools are part of the church mission. The Catholic school takes its stand within the organic pastoral work of the Christian community. Which brings me to the question, so what is the mission of the church today? I would like to bring you to the first encyclical that Pope Francis has written when he was first elected as the Pope in 2013. The title of that is Evangelii Gaudium. I think many of you have read it. I just would like to point out what is crucial to the encyclical called Evangelii Gaudium. It talks about the kind of church we should be. According to him, there are two kinds of churches that exist in our times. Sabi niya, between a church that goes into the streets and gets into an accident and a church that is sick with self-referentiality, I have no doubts of preferring the first. So the first kind of church is one that gets to the street and muddies itself. The other kind of church is one that stays within itself, which is self-referential and does not mind what's going on outside. Pope Francis says, I prefer the first. I chose this picture because this picture is a group of sisters who were once my students during the time of the pandemic. And you know, during the time of the pandemic, people are afraid to go out. So we were all inside, we were holed up, doing our own online classes. They were my students online. But the next day, I saw this picture in their Facebook. And I told, these are my students. I know their habits. So I text one of them and said, anong ginagawa niyo dyan? Sabi nila, Father, nabahaan po ang Marikina. Nakalubog po ang lahat ng bahay doon. Sabi ko, so anong ginagawa niyo? Sabi, tinulungan namin silang matanggal yung mga putik sa mga bahay nila. Tanong ko, hindi ba kayo natatakot? Hindi ba COVID? Bawal lumabas. Sabi nila sa akin, kung matatakot kami, Father, sino bang tutulong dun? Para saan pala kami? That answer actually tells us of the church that Pope Francis wants us to be. Later on, and that is on later on quoted in Evangelii Gaudium 49, I prefer a church which is bruised, hurting, and dirty because it has been out on the streets. This picture which I chose is actually the group of widows in Payatas who went out during the pandemic to distribute pandesal every morning. Nakikita niyo yung nanay, hindi nga gustong lumabas dahil natakot. Pero itong mga nanay na ito, na mga biktima ng war on drugs, sila pa ang lumabas at nagbigay ng mga pandesal sa lahat ng bahay na kanilang dadaanan sa mga panahon yun. Which church do you prefer? Pope Francis says, I like this church. If you are going to analyze Evangelii Gaudium into one slide, it is this. The problem in the church is its lack of joy. Kaya nga Evangelii Gaudium, di ba? The gospel of joy nawala sa simbahan ngayon. The problem is self-absorption, self-preservation, self-referentiality, and logic of exclusion. And the solution is go to the peripheries. Go to the poor. Simple lang ang nais sabihin ni Pope Francis. Kapag nais nating mabuhay ang simbahan ngayon, ang solusyon wala sa loob, ang solusyon nasa labas. That is why Pope Francis is famous for this saying, how I would like a poor church and for the poor. That's Pope Francis in his first encyclical. But can we go to Pope Leo in his first encyclical? I think this is now available on website. The first encyclical of Pope Leo is De Lexite on the love of the poor. And it is the same message. Sabi ni Pope Leo, by her very nature, the church is in solidarity with the poor, the excluded, the marginalized, and all those considered outcasts of society. It's the same message from Pope Francis to Pope Leo. This is, I will not, we can have another webinar to discuss it, but I will not discuss the whole thing. I just want to quote him in this last text. Pope Leo said, when the church kneels beside a leper, a malnourished child, or an anonymous dying person, she fulfills her deepest vocation to love the Lord where he is most disfigured. That is Pope Leo on the love of the poor in the church. Which actually brings us to the point. If the Catholic school is the continuation of the mission of the church, then the first and foremost mission of the Catholic school is the poor. We can dissect that a little bit further. I think we still have time, which brings me to the fourth point. And the fourth point is Pope Francis on Catholic education. What does Pope Francis say about Catholic education, which brings us to where we should be? There are two crucial documents that Pope Francis has issued on Catholic education. It's the Global Compact on Education and the Identity and Mission of Catholic Schools in the Time of Pluralism. You can refer this to their websites, to the Vatican website, and you can read it more or less. I think this has also been referred to by Sister Marisa during her talk. But let me summarize it in 3 or 4 simple points. Number 1, what is Catholic education? The first is Catholic education is inclusive. It is an education that goes forth. It is an education for all. Magandang i-discuss yung salitang inclusive. Kasi, ang reference kasi sa Catholic school ay exclusive. Exclusive yan sila kaya sila Catholic. Kaya sila sectarian. Ang iba non-sectarian. So in one way or the other, the word Catholic has gained a name for exclusion. But that's not what Catholic school is all about. First of all, the word Catholic means universal. It's for all. According to Pope Francis, it is an education that goes forth beyond the walls of the Catholic Church. It's an education, it's a part of wide-ranging pastoral project for a church that goes forth. There are questions on what makes my school Catholic, di ba? What makes it different from other schools? Actually, these questions are questions of exclusion. No, it came from a medieval distinction. Nag-away ang Katoliko at Protestante. Kami ay exclusive Catholic, sila ay Protestant. Kami ay exclusive Catholic, sila ay Muslim. Kami ay exclusive sectarian, sila ay non-sectarian. Those are questions of exclusion. And there are some reductionist answers. For instance, why is my school Catholic? It says, because it has religion classes. No, that's not the answer. Of course, my school has religion classes, but that's not what makes it Catholic. Because the administrators belong to a religious congregation or a priest from the diocese or sisters. No, that's not the answer. So of course, the honors are sisters, but that's not what makes my school Catholic. Because it has been the approval of the bishop or belongs to CAAP. No, that's not the answer. The school can be a Catholic even if it does not belong to the CAAP. Because the teachers strictly follow Catholic doctrines and morals, and if they don't, they are fired. No, that's not the answer. In fact, that should not be the answer. You know of people who are fired because they don't follow certain Catholic standards. Where is the answer? The answer is in inclusion. My school is Catholic because it is inclusive. It includes all. Its curriculum is open to all. all as in all. All as in all is not it's not my expression. It's Pope Francis' expression. In fact, the word Catholic was used by Ignatius of Antioch in 107. It means that Jesus is present to the whole church, to everyone. What the Catholic Church means, Christ is with everyone, with all. Catholicos, Catholu in Greek means on the whole, according to the whole. What are we trying to avoid here? What we are trying to avoid is the sin of self-referentiality. Education is not about preserving ourselves at the expense of caring for our students alone. It should not be self-referential, but outward-looking. And it is not about making our systems and policies more important than the needs of people on the ground. These are sins of self-referentiality present in many of our schools. Questions for self-examine. Maganda na rin, tatanungin natin ang ating sarili habang tayo ay nakikinig. How do we understand Catholicity in my school? What are the problems and challenges in this area? Number 2, how inclusive are our curricula and programs? And number 3, what do we need to do to foster more inclusion, like other faith affiliations, other socio-economic groups, gender, etc.? The second point is Catholic education is centered on the human person and our common home. Already in Gravissimum Educationis, I will talk about Gravissimum Educationis on the last series because the recent document of Pope Leo is about the Gravissimum Educationis. But if there is one thing important in Gravissimum Educationis, it is this, that education is education for the whole human person. That the human person is the center of education. This is also present in PCSS and the standards. But what does this mean? Actually, the Global Compact in Education expands it. The Global Compact of Education in 2021 mentions 7 criteria to make the human person the center. That's Gravissimum Educationis. To listen to the voices of the children and young, to advance women, to empower the family, to welcome the most vulnerable, to find new ways of understanding economy and politics. Number 7, to safeguard our common home. Number 7 was not present in Gravissimum Educationis. This is the contribution of Laudato Si. If you look at 1 to 7, this is actually the Catholic translation of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This is the direction of Catholic education. Number 7 is that the common home is actually also part of Catholic education. Now, questions for self-examine. How do we foster respect for the human person in our classrooms, in our offices, structures, and processes? What are our challenges in this regard? Number 2, how conscious are our leaders and faculty about climate crisis and caring for our common home? Bago pa lang nangyari ang Typhoon Tino, and many of those places which are affected are actually neighbors of my sisters and brothers living in that same area. Anong ibig sabihin noon sa ating curricula ngayon? I am not sure if our curricula is actually responding to the needs of our times. Which brings me to number 3. Number 3 is Catholic education is caring for the weakest and the most vulnerable. Already, that document which I mentioned from the beginning, the Identity of Catholic School in a Culture of Dialogue, 2023, says this: a Catholic school is the school for all. I mentioned that in number 1. Pero hindi pa tapos yun. Especially the weakest. A Catholic school should be a space that fosters a culture of care. Mahaba yung document na yan. Sininggle out ko lang itong dalawa dahil ito ang dapat nating hindi makakalimutan. Important to Pope Francis, but also important to Pope Leo, as you will read in the Lexite, in the Love of the Poor, is the parable of the Good Samaritan. If we apply that to our educational system, it says this: our students are like the man stranded on the road to Jericho. The question for your moral student leader or school leaders are this: shall you stop and do all your best to help? Or shall we go off and not care? The man stranded on the road in that story actually is the weakest. And the stronger ones are the priests and the Levites. So Pope Francis was saying, these are religious people. Kung ilagay natin sa panahon natin ngayon, mga Katoliko ito, mga pare, mga madre, lay minister, sila pa yung hindi lumingon at hindi tumigil. Sino yung tumigil? Yung Samaritano. The one which people actually look down. Ironically, they stopped and they cared. Therefore, Pope Francis gave this very, very challenging option. The challenge of the Good Samaritan. According to Pope Francis, there are only 2 kinds of people: those who care for someone who is hurting and those who pass by. There is no in between. Hindi pwedeng gumitna. Hindi pwedeng neutral. Dalawang klase lang yan. Tumigil ka at tumulong o nagpatuloy ka at walang pakialam. Those who bend down to help and those who look the other way and hurry off. And Pope Francis, not jokingly, intentionally said, the one who went off and did not care are religious people. That's why it's very important for us, if we place it in our context today, to care for the weakest means to make our curricula aim at sustainable development goals. If you are going to read the SDGs, it's about caring for the weakest. Number 1, no poverty. Number 2, zero hunger. Number 3, good health and well-being. This is about mental health. Number 4, quality education. Number 5, gender equality. Number 6, clean water, decent work, etc. All this is actually caring for the weakest today. That's why I said, to make our school in line with the SDGs is what it means to prefer the poor in our times. Questions for self-examine. Who among my students, faculty, staff represent the man stranded on the road? What am I doing for her or for him? Number 2, how sensitive are our structures to those who are excluded by society? sa halip na tumulong, bakit tumulong tayo paalisin sila? Number 3, how are our leaders and faculty aware, lack one word here, aware of the UN SDGs as the new name of the preferential option for the poor? Let me, I don't like to end this webinar with all those highfalutin reflections about documents of the church and its direction. But let me forward some lines of action by way of conclusion. Hindi naman talaga ito ang pinaka gagawin natin. Siguro yung mga tanong na yon, it was posed during the webinar in order for you to think what in your context would clarify and would forward this mission of the church present in your school. What I would like to share is siguro some of what my school, Adamson University, is doing in order to concretize what I was saying. These are not ideal directions. Until now, we are still continuing to ask, but these are our first steps. Let me show some. Number 1 is academic service learning. I think academic service learning is not just there in order to qualify for accreditation, but is actually trying to answer the needs of the weakest in our times. The other one is community-oriented extension services. In Adamson, the forms are crisis intervention, which means kung merong baha, merong bagyo, more or less meron kaming automatic response to this. There is also some sort of political work. I will explain that later, etc. So let me go to academic service learning. Ito yung mga pictures na example ng aming academic service learning. Example, our researches needs to be an answer to the actual need of communities. I single this out because this came in GMA News sometime in 2025. Adamson students develop a mechanism to detect gas leaks. Siyempre, ang sunog sa atin dahil sa gas leaks, nakalimutan, etc. etc. Pero merong research yung aming mga estudyante that can detect gas leaks and turn off the gas even if the house person is not there, etc. Ito ay grupo ng mga electrical engineering students teaching the poor how to, ewan ko kung anong mga inaayos nila dyan. And these are graduates of what we call Summer School for Life program, mothers who come to Adamson or students who go to their communities to teach them many skills that their research can do. Marami pa pong researches na ganun. Isang example lang ito ng academic service learning programs. The other is community-oriented extension services. This first picture is actually an extension library in the in the IP communities in Pampanga, in Real Quezon, in Rodriguez Rizal, where our library materials, maybe which are double copies, are donated, but at the same time, some students continue to work there. This other picture here is called is a paralegal training program, etc. So if I go back to what are community-oriented extension services, for instance, political work. Yung Huwag Kang Magnakaw ay sinimulan ng Adamson University during the PDAF scam program. which until today continues in the problem of the present corruption crisis. There's another which is called Vincentians for the World. Our graduates who could not work yet or who has not found work volunteer themselves to teach in Burma, in Thailand, in all these difficult areas between Thailand and Burma, teaching young students there. And we have also explored relationships with other community, IP communities today. Number 3 is educational access and scholarship. This one is very important to Adamson University. There is a minimum legal requirement in Philippine schools, and the ratio is 1 to 500 students should be scholar. That's Presidential Decree 451 for larger institutions. That means in every 500 students, one should get a scholarship. It says here that the actual practice in private schools in the Philippines is actually more than that. It's actually 5% of the total enrollment. I asked our Adamson University Scholarship Office, and she answered that Adamson University overall scholarship is 20.8 of the total enrollment. The number is important. Of course, the scholarship areas some are university funded, other are corporate and alumni scholarships, others are students assistantship program, others are academic scholars or athletic scholars, etc. Our point is simple. The more poor people have access to education, the better for us. Of course, we get sponsors because you cannot just continue giving out and nothing comes in. But we also have tried our best. With all our limitations, we tried our best to make our tuitions to the barest minimum to run a school so that people from the lower classes have still access. Of course, hindi naman pwedeng wala tayong pera na pang sweldo, pang maintain ng iyong building, pag fund ng research. But the delicate balance between tuition and scholarship is very important. That is always a decisive decision in the school. My last proposal is, I have always been harping on this for a long time, that the Catholic social teaching, which is very relevant to the weakest in our society and the direction of Catholic theology, should be the educational framework of our schools. Because we know that the Catholic social teaching is an integral part of the Catholic message. We have forgotten this. Our religion classes are focused on sacraments, on devotion to Mary, on catechesis, without the Catholic social teaching. It's not bad. It's not wrong, but it's lacking. Because action on behalf of justice and work in the transformation of the world is an intrinsic part of preaching the gospel. That, for instance, I think it is important that the GIP program of SEAP should be made an important part, not just an outreach of Catholic schools. And my point is simple. Catholic social teaching should not just be a course to be taught in our schools. It should be the mainframe of our school policies and research agenda. Which brings me back to where I started. These are the faces of the orphans in Payatas. If I look at them, they tell me, will you also kill me? The police have killed my father, but will you also kill me? Because if you don't do anything, you might be helping killing me. I read one favorite French philosopher. He said, the face in its nudity and defenselessness signifies, do not kill me. He was talking about the orphan, the widow, and the stranger. I'm back to where I started. It says, education cannot be neutral. You either kill or make someone live. Maraming salamat at magandang umaga sa inyong lahat.
Catholic education is caring for the weakest and the most vulnerable. It fosters a culture of care. Maraming salamat, Father Danny. Nakakaantig ng puso ang inyong ibinahagi ngayong umaga. Thank you for that very inspiring challenge to us. Every chance to listen to you is always a blessing. We will have more of Father Danny after our 2-minute health break. Please be back after 2 minutes. Yan na tayo. And we are back. Welcome to the question and answer portion of this webinar. We remind everyone to continue sending in your questions for Father Danny at the Facebook comment section. Our staff are collecting these questions and comments and forwarding them to me. Thank you. Hello, Father Danny. Welcome to our Q&A. But before that,
Hello.
let's give a shout out to those joining us in this webinar. Sabihin ko lang sa inyo, Father, kung taga saan ang mga nanonood. La Consolacion, Tanawan, St. Dominic Savio in Lapu-Lapu, may mga taga Tarlac, Carcar, Carmona, Cavite, Lebac, Sultan, Kudarat, SDO sa Northern Samar, Cebu, IHMCI Quezon City, SMA Oslo. Ayan, Father, meron kang kababayan doon. Tacloban City, Muntinlupa, Valenzuela, Taguig City, Southern Leyte. Mga kaibigan namin syempre sa Saints Co Manila. Hello Hansel at Net. Coronadal City, Parañaque, San Fernando, Mandaue City, Taytay Rizal, Davao City, Lucena City, Capiz, USI Bohol, at meron din ikaw fan na taga Vancouver, si Angelica Guevara. Kung magkakilala kayo, Father, nag-hello siya sa'yo. May mga nag-hello din sa inyo, Father, si Ochi Fontelera, Ingrid Mantuhak, Bohol, Ems Garcia, Juliet Natinga, and Jenny Ramirez. May mga nagte-text din asking for slides. Siguro isasama natin yan sa certificate. So please everybody, make sure you complete your evaluation form for your certificate and we will be including the slides with it. Okay. Father, very consistent, no, yung inyong academic service learning sa sinabi ni Father Miranda during his talk. That the students should be able to reach out to the community based on their training. Kung engineer ka, you do an engineering response to the engineering need of the community. Ganun talaga yung ano natin, ano, we should always be consistent with what we do in our schools. Pero Father, ito muna ang first question natin. Okay, medyo ano to, medyo controversial from Doc Vita of Cebu, so St. Dominic Savio. Now that, kasi galing siya sa Cebu, no? Now that many has died due to the strong flow of water from the rivers that are supposed to be guarded by flood control mechanism, is this not worse than drugs? The kawat of the money from the government coffers. What is this? Less than the drugs proliferation? Ang mga kawatan ay criminals. What can you say about that, Father?
Thank you for a very relevant question, lalong-lalo na yung nagtanong ay galing sa Cebu. Recent victim.
Ramdam nila.
Simple lang po ang sagot ko diyan eh.
Mhm.
What is in the Ten Commandments, what is forbidden in the Ten Commandments are all evil. Thou shalt not steal.
Mhm.
Thou shalt not steal is evil. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill is also evil. All of these are evils that proliferates in the structures of our society. Siguro kailangan i-analyze ano nangyari. Bakit itong mga subdivisions na nasa Cebu, kung nakikita nyo, ay natatabunan at naanohan ng baha. Siguro ang dahilan dyan ay yung mga flood control projects ay nanakaw. At lahat ng magnanakaw ay dapat managot. Ito nga yung sigaw ng mga kabataan ngayon kahit saan, di ba? Hindi lang sa rally, pati sa UEAP games, no?
Oo nga.
Mga kurakot, ikulong na yan.
Mm.
Ikulong na yan. Hindi tama.
Mm.
Ngayon, nakikita natin yung epekto nito. Ang epekto sa mga kabataan, ang dami-daming video na nanggagaling sa Cebu. A father trying to destroy his own house, which he has made in order just to save his children.
Yeah.
And the recent news is he could not even find them except two. Ngayon lang natin nakikita na ang struktura ng lipunan ng pagnanakaw ay nakakamatay. Sabi nga sa Ingles, corruption kills.
Correct.
But even the EJK is a system of corruption. And we have proven that there are actually incentives for the killing. So all these are actually evil. And what is, siguro pwede pa natin pag-usapan yan next meeting. What does the school do to teach students to fight against evil.
Yeah. Yung
Ang
prophetic.
problema kasi merong parang parang ideology na nagsasabing schools should be neutral.
Mhm.
And for me, that's an evil perspective. Schools cannot be neutral. Kaya ko sinabi yung sinabi ni Pope Francis. Because whatever we do, it will either help evil or fight against it.
Yeah.
Kaya siguro yun. So sagot doon sa isang nanay from Cebu, is this ang mga kawatan, ay ang kawatan dapat ikulong.
Mm.
Kung
Ang
ano,
tagal bago makulong, eh, 'no? Ang daming pinagdadaanan at
marami kasing kawatan eh.
tapos makaano pa sila sa law, they can circumvent the law.
Precisely.
Ang hirap. Salamat, Father, 'no? May nag-comment dito si Medel Magbuhos, to concretize all these into realistic goals would be a very, very big challenge to one and all in the school community. Parang they really appreciated your talk, pero parang ang hirap daw i-concretize nito, Father, 'no? Sa ano nila. Siguro dapat part 2 mo, pwede mo.
Totoo yun, totoo. Mahirap po talaga. Kahit na aware tayo niyan, paano i-concretize ay mahirap din. Halimbawa, alam naman natin na we are also in need of finances.
Mhm.
For instance, we have to fight for the survival of our schools.
Mhm.
We don't have government subsidy. Of course, they're trying to augment it. So, problema din natin ang kabuhayan, pagkabuhay ng ating sariling paaralan, no? Tapos meron pa tayong mga ways to cope up with accreditation requirements,
Yeah.
uh, computerization of schools, digitalization of etc. etc. Pero even within these challenges, I think the real challenge for a Catholic school, if we want to be true to our Christian calling,
Mhm.
is how to integrate the needs of the least, of the
Yeah.
weakest
Mm.
in our context. Yun yung mahirap pero dapat gawin, 'di ba?
Mm.
I would like to think of the parable of the Good Samaritan. Hindi naman evil yung priest and Levite. They also have their own concerns. Maybe they have their own duties. Maybe they have their own whatever KPIs or something.
Oo.
But precisely the challenge of Jesus is not just that.
Mm.
Someone is dying in front of you. What do you do?
Correct. And if I remember right, sa iyong klase, sinabi mo sa amin, in the face of someone in need, do something. Yun lang. In the face of someone in need, you have to be able to do something, di ba?
Mabuti naman naalala mo pa yung isa.
Kaya favorite student mo ako. Ito, Father, meron siguro in relation to that, no, may nag-text. Transformation is a long-term process, but schools often operate on academic calendars and demand measurable outcomes. In your experience as university president, what are the most meaningful, well, albeit sometimes less tangible, indicators of a successful societal transformation that we should look for? Pang ano 'to, pang Miss Universe question ang
Parang
Hmm.
mahirap sagutin. Ah, ano ba, ako, okay, hindi pa naman po ako, well, I have been a dean na and running a school of theology for some time. And
Mm.
I am only 1 year president of Adamson University. So,
Hmm.
medyo mahirap yung second job ko kasi first year pa lang ako.
Opo.
I'm learning the ropes as people would say. I'm trying to navigate what to do here.
Yeah.
Pero in my past life, no, past life,
Talaga.
nung ako'y butterfly pa or whatever. In my work as the dean of the university, there was one thing that I instilled from day one until I think I was dean for 18 years.
Mhm.
And the motto was to do theology and philosophy from the margins. If I can, if the teachings of theology and philosophy can only turn back the directions of minds among the students, I would be happy to retire and die, if as you say. And and for those 18 years, I have really, really seen how future priests really turned their minds. And one time, I know that they became priests in the future, they were assigned. And one guy said, alam mo, Father, isang bagay ang nakakaligaya sa akin na ma-assign ako sa bundok.
Hmm.
That's not automatic for many priests. That's
Yeah.
not automatic. And the bishop said, what's going on in St. Vincent, that the priests who graduated from there are the ones who are very happy to be assigned in the mountain.
Mhm.
Ako naman, naisip-isip ko, ay salamat sa Diyos. Hindi na sayang yung aking panahon dito. Kasi hindi man ako, kahit ako, I know my vocation was inspired so that I will become a missionary in the mountain. But I have never been assigned in the mountain the whole of my life.
Mhm.
But to listen to that is already a confirmation of of my own calling and vocation. Sabi ko sa sarili ko, hindi man ako na-assign sa bundok, pero yung mga pari na tinuruan ko rito ay gustong ma-assign doon.
Oh.
I think this, if you want, parang Miss Universe nga yung tanong ngayon. But but if you want an answer, a tangible sign, that is it.
Ah.
Hopefully, the people, of course, we can only do something little in our lifetime. But
Mm.
if the people that we have trained in our schools would have that same perspective, we would be very happy to retire and die.
Yeah, true. Oh, ayan. So yan ang iyong Miss Universe question. Thank you for that beautiful answer. Okay. Ito, Father, merong nag-text sa Facebook page natin. This is Jake Arroyo. How can private schools, sectarian and non-sectarian, adapt to education for all with regards to the no exam, no permit policy? Ayan, sinaharap mo na to ngayon as university president. Pero sabi mo nga hindi naman mataas masyado ang tuition ng Adamson. Pero what's
Yeah,
your
totoo yan. Okay. In our experience in Adamson, of course, that's no longer possible. Anyone can take exams.
okay.
As of now, no one is exempted to take exams. But even when there was such a policy before, no exam, no tuition, no exam policy. Even if there was that policy before, we actually did not implement it to the letter.
Mm.
We always have a leeway, and our treasurer would always have that leeway to say, ano bang dahilan bakit hindi ka makabayad? And well, yung promissory note is an important part of the
Yeah.
Adamson lifestyle.
Kapal siguro ng promissory notes niyo, ano?
Kasi kung iisipin mo, hindi rin naman invalid yung kanilang mga reasons. Na
Mm.
hospital yung nanay nila,
Mm.
nawalan sila ng trabaho,
Mm.
tatay nila umuwi galing sa Saudi.
Mm.
Uh, if you see the person or may cancer yung tatay, etc. If you look at the person in the face, you cannot just say, let's implement. No, because the
Compassion.
person is dying in front of you.
Correct.
Precisely. Dito lalabas yung Christian sense of compassion. Kaya tatanungin natin, so paano ito, kailan ka makabayad? Sabi niya, Father, hanggang 100,000 ang utang ko diyan, 10,000 lang talaga. O di tatanggapin mo yun. Kaysa, ano ba, di ba? So
Mm.
even if that law existed or policy existed, we don't really implement it. Now, of course, then you will have problems. Then you will have
Sustainability
problems.
kasi ang
Oh,
problem natin, Papa.
yes, that you have to survive. So, kailangan talaga maging creative, paano magsustain, etc., etc. Alam na natin yun, no? Because we are not working on an endless budget, no? Wala. So, pero iniisip ko personally, ganun din naman yung mga pamilya sa Pilipinas eh.
Mhm.
Wala din naman silang kaban ng kayamanan. Ay,
Correct.
maliban na lang sa mga nepo baby siguro, di ba?
Oo.
Di ba? Mga kontraktor. Pero ang ordinaryong pamilya ng Pilipino, eh wala din naman silang endless budget. No. And the school, in order to survive, should be like the Filipino family. Now,
Correct.
of course, that's challenging because hindi ka rin makakatulog kung paano
Oo,
tayo
kung papaano.
magsusurvive sa sunod,
Yung sa
etc.
school eh. Kasi like, I remember when I was speaking to one school head, we were talking about yung Dilexit eh. And then yung, you open your doors to the poor. Yung sa scholarship, sabi niya, ang hirap din noon, Mary Ann, na mahal din kasi ang scholarships, parang sabi niya. So, what other, parang how do we ensure this? Kayo, sinabi mo kanina, you have alumni, you have all this. What other forms of help, no, or partnerships? Kasi naalala ko when I was giving a strategic planning with one of the school systems in the north, tinatanong nung bishop, sabi niya, ano pa ba ang means of like partnership that can actually show success and achieve real development and empowerment. Kasi sabi niya, we are willing to run the schools pero nahihirapan talaga kami with our sustainability. So then maybe, you can look into partnerships. Ano ba, Father, ang naging experience mo in terms of partnerships sa schools to ensure sustainability?
Well, partnerships, meron namang, when I was still in S.Th.D,
Mm.
partnership with European institutions who
Mm.
would like to grant scholarships. And
Ah,
there are several of them.
oh,
Uh, I think the only European or whatever institution from abroad who are willing to educate, halimbawa, women.
wow.
There are groups there who, or IPs or maraming ganon. Sabihin, paano hanapin yun? It's a skill. Uh,
Mm.
Second, I think the diocesan framework is actually helping when a bigger school in the diocese partners with the parang 3 Mile School, etc. So last mile school, etc. So I think that is very viable also. Ang ano lang dito, siguro creativity.
Creativity.
Oo. Kung ang mga mahihirap ay creative, dapat ang mahihirap na school ay creative din.
Correct.
Ah, si Saint Vincent de Paul, siyempre famous siya, yung aming founder. Famous siya sa pagtulong sa mga mahihirap. Sabi niya sa kanya, meron siyang quote na sabi niya, love is inventive unto infinity. Ah,
Wow.
pwede yung pang-hashtag eh, di ba?
Oo nga, love pang Valentine yan.
La- Love, tama naman, di ba? Love for the poor, love for, kahit na, love for
Love in
someone,
all its
romantic love,
oo.
is inventive unto infinity.
Yeah.
Now, kung talagang gusto, may paraan.
Correct.
Talagang ayaw, may dahilan.
Yun. So, I guess yun na yung mga sagot natin dito kay Maris Betsaida. How do we support the small Catholic schools in realization of the church's mission? How will we extend Catholic education to our most in need communities? So, sinabi mo nga the diocesan setup kasi I think she belongs to a diocesan school. Ano pa yan? So yan. Thank you very much for the learnings. Oh, si Edith Avelino. Hi, Edith. Thank you for the learnings that you continue to impart since our SVST days. Salamat, Father. Yan. Father, ito last question pang mga future direction, another Miss Universe question. If you could propose one policy reform in Philippine education to prioritize the marginalized, what will it be?
Gusto ko maging Secretary of Education muna bago ko sagutin yan.
Hindi naman, I'm sure si Sunny Angara will be willing to listen to your proposal.
Hindi, pero alam mo, okay, we're talking about Catholic schools. But the Catholic schools, of course, it's struggling.
Mhm.
But if you look at the Catholic schools, they are much better off than the ordinary public schools in the barrios and in the barangays.
Mhm.
I think I think the ordinary public school should be helped. For instance, classroom. Ano ba yung policy direction? Pwede ba tapusin niyo muna yung mga classroom na yan? Hindi pa natin pinag-uusapan yung internet, hindi pa natin pinag-uusapan yung kuryente, hindi pa natin pinag-uusapan yung access. At meron na ngang sanang magturo doon sa mga alkadeb, sa mga IP schools ng lumad. Nire-red tag naman.
Correct.
Ang point ko, kung hahanapin talaga natin kung saan ang pinangangailangan, actually it's the public schools, and we know that many of these resources are also diverted somewhere else. So I think yung unang question tungkol sa corruption is also present in education, and if these structures are directed well, I think we would go a long way. Pero yun na nga, pang Miss Universe kasi yan, hindi naman ako Secretary of Education. Pero sa tingin ko, ang mga mahihirap talaga ay nandoon sa mga even as we say that the Catholic schools are also fighting for its own survival, I also know that. But if I'm going to compare the Catholic school and the barrio school in the places that I know, mas kailangan pa rin ng tulong talaga yung mga barrio school na yun sa mga malalayong lugar.
Oo, kasi yung iba, ang mga problema pa nga nila, Father, paano pumunta sa school? Kasi ang lalayo.
Yeah.
Para,
Or yung school nila ay walang principal, di ba?
ah,
Paano mangyayari yun? Di ba?
correct. Kulang
Ang
sa
dami-daming problema. Walang libro, hindi pa natin pinag-uusapan yung libro, yung internet.
facilities.
Oh,
Oo.
meron nga ako nakita eh. Nag-aaral sila ng computer. Ang ginamit lang nila ay yung cardboard na keyboard. Ano ba
Oh,
'yun? 'Di
para
ba?
lang ano to,
Oo.
example lang, makakita lang.
Samantalang ninanakaw yung mga laptop sa
Oo,
DepEd.
correct.
Oh, alam na natin kung sino.
Ay nako, Father, this has been most enriching, no, for all of us. May mga nag-text dito that thank you for such an enriching and enlightening session. Pero they will still have you next time, no, next meeting. So yung ibang mga tanong, I think pang next meeting to, like what can we how can you share a concrete example of how a school or its graduate can effectively challenge a specific systemic injustice without falling into the trap of being merely anti-establishment, but rather pro-transformative? No, so mukhang pang next meeting na to. Hindi ko na itatanong to sa'yo. Ang tanong ko na lang, what would be your final message to our audience with regard to education for the poor, and that looks into helping the vulnerable. Sige, Father.
If there is anything that I would say last, it's to go back to that parable of the Good Samaritan.
Mm.
Someone is suffering in front of you. You have only two choices. Do you come down and help, or do you go off and leave? Yun yung sinabi ko sa klase siguro natin minsan.
Yeah.
If someone suffers in front of you, do
To
something.
Oo,
Whatever it is, do
yeah.
something.
Hindi ko yun
Thank
makakalimutan, Father. Pinaiyak mo kami nun sa klase. Okay, so thank you very much, Father Danny Pilario. Maybe by way of synthesis, no, we can say that school leaders are entrusted with a profound mission to ensure that education becomes a lifeline of hope for the poor and a catalyst of social transformation. As leaders, they are called to lead with compassion, discernment, and a deep awareness of the lived realities of the marginalized, especially in a country like ours, continually challenged by natural calamities and social inequities. By championing inclusive policies, as Father Danny said, strengthening partnerships with communities, and forming educators who are committed to justice and service, school leaders help their institutions become true agents of change. When decisions are guided by a preferential love for the poor, schools do not merely teach, they empower, uplift, and contribute to building a society where every learner has the opportunity to flourish with dignity. As Father Danny said, education cannot be neutral. Let us all remember that. Once again, we thank our resource person today, Father Danny Pilario. Palakpakan natin si Father. Thank you, Father, for sharing such a powerful and heartfelt message that reminds us of our mission to serve with compassion and solidarity. Your insights have renewed our commitment to place the poor at the center of our work as educators and leaders. We are truly grateful for your presence and inspiration today. So we invite everyone to the sixth and final session of our formation series scheduled on November 22. We will have the same resource person, pakyawan na ito, Father Danny. The final session prepares leaders to respond with integrity and discernment to the challenges in cultivating a culture of integrity, transparency, and accountability within the school community or ad intra, and the moral and ethical challenges in today's world like gender issues, digital culture, political pressure, relativism, and secularism ad extra, while maintaining gospel-centered clarity. For more details, please check out the Rex Facebook page. And just a reminder from the Secretariat, please accomplish the evaluation form through the QR code that is currently being flashed on screen right now. Please note that submitting the completed form is required to confirm your attendance and to ensure the issuance of your e-certificate. Okay? So, pag pinilapan nyo yan, you will get your e-certificate, and I think we will also email in the same email address the slides that you have been asking for from Father Danny. And so on behalf of our chairman of the board, Attorney Dominador Buhain, our CEO, Mr. Don Timothy Buhain, our Chief Marketing Officer, Ms. Jean Tordesillas, our webinar series coordinator, the Strategic Education and Development Consultant, Mr. Jose Alan Arellano. This is Mary Ann Cruz saying thank you and good afternoon.